In this video, I'm going to talk about how to start or shift career into artificial intelligence, data science, analytics, machine learning kind of buzzword, and some myths of executive MBA. Like my other videos, I'm going to talk a lot about something which I have seen firsthand, like what mistake people have done or how they have lost certain things. So I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk specifically about experienced professionals, what probably they should do. So let's get started. The topic that I'll be covering: guideline to start career into AI, data science, etc. Some common interview mistakes, suggestions to build two important competency quickly, means which takes less time and still makes you capable of doing certain things. I'm going to talk about suggestions for experienced professionals, and I'm going to talk about myths of executive courses also. Additionally, I'll talk about applicability of some of the techniques. So let's get going. Let me first talk for the freshers. First of all, freshers need to understand that there are a lot of things that is going into the market which are actually like there is a huge amount of overlap. It's like data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. All these things probably will have 80% kind of overlap. Many times it's like repackaging, like you're putting another skin on the horse and you're saying now it is a tiger. And why you're doing it? To attract customer, students. It is like a bait so that you can get into that. And I'll talk a lot about that in the subsequent slides. So first of all, you need to understand, if you're doing data science, if you're doing AI, one thing you are doing, other is just probably 10% addition. You don't need to do the other course, number one. Number two, doing also has multiple ways. Let me just show you what are the different ways by which you can learn. So one thing you need to understand, when a fresher goes for the interview, let's say any engineering background guy is coming for a job of analytics, if you're knowing, let's say you are engineer from a good institute and you are knowing anything good, like anything, SAS, R or Python with good depth, you are taken. And why you are taken? Because now you are a contributing staff. You can do the basic job and rest of the thing can be trained to you on the job. Usually no one expects that at this level you will know everything at a good depth, but at least what you are talking. If you are saying that you know SAS, R, then at least you should be able to handle data, do certain basic job. Basic, I should say, good at the level of entrance level. Good depth is needed so that you can be the basic executor. At the beginning, your job is mostly to do execution. What is the common myth that people do? The common myth that people do, that they talk about, mostly they are aware of all these things like visualization, business knowledge, statistics, machine learning, but many times they talk as if they are the masters. What you need to understand, to master all these things probably can take ages. Probably even after 15 or 20 years, people will still be learning into these areas. So what you need to understand, many a times the freshers who are coming has the exposure of that, and they talk of a lot of things. They will talk of visualization. You ask question on visualization, they will say, okay, this is something I don't know, but I know about machine learning. You go to machine learning, there they will again falter. So essentially what happens, you actually give an impression that you are aware of many things, but actually not a contributing staff. On the other hand, if someone is knowing, engineering grad, and even if knowing Python SQL good enough to do the basic data processing, many times hiring manager tend to hire them. The reason is that this kind of employee can contribute and he is a trainable resource. He knows what he knows and he knows what he is not knowing. So you tend to hire this kind of person. So what I should say, that many times, I know because just I am aware, and when the interviewer asks question, it looks like there are a lot of holes, as if you are aware of many things but not knowing any things. What people expect, usually like an interviewer has approximately 30 to 45 minutes to make a judgment about the candidate. At that time, mostly the interviewer is trying to hire people. He is not here to reject, he is trying to hire. So, if you say something that, I know SAS, and if you can answer question on SAS, your educational background is anyway, you will be hired. Most of the time people make mistake that they say that I know this, I know this, I know this, and when interviewer asks question on any of them, they just falter. So it's better that you know certain things, but you know reasonably good that you can demonstrate a skill and you get hired. In that case, your rest of the learning, rest of the training happens on the job. So you demonstrate one skill and that's it. You demonstrate one skill. Your manager thinks that okay, you are a trainable resource. You are a contributory resource. You can contribute, and then rest of the things can be taken care. The problem happens when you say that I'm knowing a lot of things, but actually you can't prove any of them. And that's where I should say, even after training, even after going through spending huge amount of money, you actually do not get the job in that area. So what is the suggestion? Suggestion is that you are from good institute, focus on 1 and 2, and make some depth, make yourself comfortable so that when questions are being asked, you can demonstrate your skill rather than knowing everything and not being able to answer anything. Now, what are the suggestions? Like if somebody asks me that, okay, what I should study first to start building competency. So first of all, you need to understand there are 4 aspects of competency on data analytics, and I'll just show you. I'm not going to go into the detail of that. So if you look at, there are 4 aspects of data science: execution skills, basic statistics, machine learning, business domain. Out of this, these 2 are, I should say, quick kill, which takes less time and you can demonstrate easily. So I'm going to talk a bit about how you can build competency on these 2. So just hold on. So there are many options for building competency. Like there are courses which probably takes you 500,000 rupees plus GST. And those courses are usually of 1 year, where 30 days of classroom and online courses. There are some other options where somebody is charging you 400,000 plus GST for 1 year and 4 days of classroom. There are some which takes 6:30 to 10 kind of classes. So essentially, like you have 3 hours twice a week and for 6 months. Most of the time, these courses cost you 20,000 a day. And 2,500 an hour, usually like you have 8 hours a day kind of learning. And the explanation is, they actually cover a lot of things so that you become aware of many things. But where do you lack? You do not get competence, you do not get confidence on any of them. And that's where I should say you miss out at the time of interview. Usually these courses gives you access to content for very limited time, probably for till the time the courses are happening, or probably 1 year after that. After that, your access to the content also goes off. What are the other alternative? I mean, really someone need to spend good sum, like 2,500 per hour to learn something? I don't think so. There are many options which are almost free, or even if it is costing you less than $10, $450, 500 rupees. But one thing is for sure, that you definitely need to put good effort. Let me talk about some of the cost effective options. Some of the cost effective options like YouTube, Udemy, that gives you option, that gives you access to the content for life. And what you need to understand, YouTube also and many other things has lot of things which many people do not realize. For example, if you take off, most of the trainers will have this kind of playlist. What is a playlist? Playlist, a collection of videos. Like here, in this SAS programming, there are 53 videos. And these videos, like if you go, these starts talking about how to access SAS for free. This we start with the how to get free access to the SAS, then working with some data, lot of things, frequency distribution, numeric variable analysis. Then it will keep building on theory, and then it actually gives you 10 practice cases, like question 1 solution, question 2 solution, question 3 solution, like that. So there are 10 questions. So after doing the course, when you do these 10 questions, that develops your competency, that develops your confidence. If you think of many a times, I'll just show you. When you go to the playlist, right, in the description you will find that people have given you access to the data and other stuff. Like, let me just show you. So if you're going here in this video, what you will realize that on YouTube also people have given you access to the data, get access to the data and code. So what you need to understand, that there are many YouTube playlists which can give you the data, which can give you the code, and you can learn. Even if you think of, you take a look at this course, it is giving you like R programming from scratch and practice cases without a workout. This is giving you access to getting started with R, working with data, and it talks a lot about how to merge data, how to do frequency analysis, how to do numeric variable analysis, lot of things, derive new variable, arithmetic and logical operator, some other R procedure, and then again there are 10 case studies. So if you think of, these are also the cheaper option. You can think of taking learning from my YouTube video, or you can think of learning from others, but usually YouTube, Udemy, these are much cheaper option that you have. Even if you want to go for classroom session, I will say try to go for someone like who had probably himself the trainer. So I'll say go for someone who is the trainer and who is himself training you. There are other which are like corporates. So essentially they hire trainer and they make them in that case mostly I've seen people like it's a practice. You go there, you learn something. But when someone new who has started his training by his I should say aspiration or by his hobby, he or she is probably much more inclined to make you learn, make you understand. So try to go for new trainer that can help you rather than a big name which may not help all the time. Now let's go to the next thing that you can think of building. Next thing I should say, so this learning SAS actually makes you comfortable with the execution skill which I talked about. If you recall, I talked about that there are two important aspects of data science. So four important aspects of data science: execution, business statistics, machine learning, and this. So this is something SAS R I talked. You can learn SAS R, Python also you can get the playlist. Now let me talk about how you can build your basic competency quickly and still be able to do the job. So for that, I will recommend you that try to go for decision tree. Why I'm recommending you decision tree? Because decision tree is easy to understand. It is much less, it probably has zero statistics. It's more of, I should say, algebra, more of formula, basic formula. It is very widely applicable. You can apply it in a variety of situations, which makes it very versatile tool. And I'm going to talk a lot about how to use it in the next slide. And I'm also going to talk about some strange cases where we have been able to apply it. So, and it requires much less data processing, so it's much faster. And there are many extensions which are very popular, like for example, random forest, gradient boosting are nothing but the extension of these decision tree. These are fast. Usually it doesn't take much time and you can develop it very fast. So that's why I will suggest you that, okay, for machine learning, if you have to build your first competency, go for decision tree. In decision tree, when you are trying to learn, these are the things that you should try to learn. What is a model? Decision tree gives you a model. What is a model and why do you need a model? Next thing, how to design data for model. So for modeling, how you should design the dependent variable, independent variable, that's a very important aspect of the model design. Third aspect is that what is the algorithm behind decision tree? How classification is working, how regression is working, how does it select a particular variable, how does it select a particular cut, and all those things. Then you should see a demo. I should say you should try to develop some decision tree on your own using SAS or whatever. So that way, these are giving you basic understanding of how to develop model. It's giving you algorithm behind model, and this is giving you how to develop it. So it's essentially giving you practical side of that. How will you develop in the scenario? Then summarization of decision tree you should understand. You should very well understand the interpretation of the classification tree output or regression tree output. What it has given, how you can make sense of that output. And next you should understand what is the practical usage of that output which you are seeing. Once you see the output classification tree, what is the practical use, where you can use it, how you can use it. That's a very important aspect of the learning. But if you do this thing, it actually gives you the basics of machine learning. This is actually supervised machine learning very fast. You can actually take a look at my course also, which is very much in the same line. It essentially gives you like introduction to decision tree, why do you need a tree, anatomy of the decision tree, what are the different definition of objective segmentation, and then it gives you talks about model design, that what is the model design. Then it does the demo of the decision tree, that okay, how will you learn, how will you develop it using R, and then it gives you algorithm behind decision tree, and it talks a lot about practical usage of regression tree, demo part 1, demo part 2. So it's giving you several decision tree uses and some assignment and assignment solutions so that you can practice and you can learn. That way you can you can learn these things very fast. Most often than not, Udemy keeps running some kind of promo, and these are usually available at $450. I'll put the link in the description area. Description area of the video is like this kind of area below the video. So I'll put that. However, coming back to the same stuff once again. So you should try to understand these things so that at least 2 of the things get covered. Now, what is the applicability of decision tree? So in the childhood, I used to see something like this range. Now this range, I used to say it's a charismatic thing because it can, work on this rectangle stuff. This probably, these are 5 faces, nut, hexagonal nut, different size of nut it can work. So it's a miraculous tool. Like, I could say that one tool that can do many things. And the same is true for decision tree. Decision tree itself can do many things. It has 2 kind of, like for binary outcome, classification tree, binary or categorical outcome, classification tree. And for numeric outcome, it has regression tree. So classification tree, let me give you some example. A responder model. You have run an offer, who will take the offer, who will not take the offer. Loss model, when you are giving loan to someone, who are the people who will turn into the loss, who are the people who will make payment. Collections model, who are the people who will roll from 2 due to 3 due, who are the people who will not roll forward. So again, classification. Prepayment risk, who are the people who can make prepayment on the home loan. So that's a prepayment risk. So if you think of, these are the classification tree usage. And the second kind of decision tree are regression tree, where the dependent variable is numeric. And I'm going to talk a bit about this because this looks very odd, that you can use the decision tree for code debugging. Nobody, usually people will think of in these terms, but actually, like, I'll just talk about a case study where this kind of technique has been used for code debugging. So regression tree, numeric outcome, like what is the spend estimate of customer, how much spend customer will be doing. What is the income estimate of the profile? How you can judge about this kind of profile that they might be having this kind of income. So here the dependent variable is numeric, and that's why you're using regression tree. Now let me talk about this particular case, which looks odd, but actually it has happened. So in one case, there were 75,000 kind of record in base system. 74,700 were getting loaded into new system, but say 300 were getting rejected every day, roughly. So it was very, I should say, it was a very hue and cry situation, because nobody knew why these 300 records are getting rejected, and it was a pretty big application. It was that big application that people were thinking it's a 6-month project. Then they took help of some data science. This data science guy, he put 0 where the data is getting loaded, and he put 1 where data is not getting loaded. And here, for all these 75 cases, there were lot of attributes available. He just ran a classification tree, and he figured out that a particular value of variable A and variable B is actually causing concern. The moment this got to know, the application head the person who was heading the application development got to know, he immediately got to know what is the issue, because he knew that code is written like this, that variable 1, it is taking value A, then this set of code. When variable 1 is taking value B, then this set of code. And actually within variable A, again variable 2 was coming like that. Okay, variable 2 value X, take this to this. Variable 2 is taking value Y, take this to this. So the moment he get to know that, okay, these 300 belongs to a particular value of variable B and variable 1 and particular value of variable 2, he immediately knew that, okay, he needs to work only on this part, and the problem that was supposed to be 6-month project actually got done in 4 days. And that's the power of machine learning, due to which I should say actually people are highly valued. Now let me talk about experienced professional, because here I see most of the people making mistake. So what kind of mistake they do? So let me actually prove you by an example. So let me show you two profile, person A, person B. Person A has 10 years of experience with Java development, has done 1 year analytics course somewhere, so it's like 1 year analytics course which you are doing parallel to the job, and your current position is senior manager. Now look at person 2, he is 7 years with analytical work throughout. He's throughout into analytics, his current position is manager. Now this person actually aspired to be AVP. He's senior manager, he wants to get promoted and want to get into analytics, because he has heard lot of good stories about the salaries of the analytics guy. But let me ask you, whom will you hire? If you have analytical work, who do you think will be more useful for you, person A or person B? In most of the situation, it's person B, because person B, this guy, by doing 1 year of the parallel course along with the job, his knowledge in analytical area might be equivalent to at max probably a guy with probably 2 or 3 years of experience. You will not have the speed. At senior level, you are expected not just to know, you are expected to revert with speed, with proficiency, which this guy is a learner, and thinks that he will be hired and somebody will train him or give an opportunity for him to learn on the job, which doesn't happen. And that's where I should say these guys make lot of mistake, they lose lot of money. So what is the way out for person A? Person A should not think of shifting job. You are thinking that you have learned analytics and you get into another company or another role and become senior of the analytics. That's actually not the good way. Usually it doesn't succeed that way, and most often they're not. As the time passes, your learning vanishes. What you should do, try to exhibit your skills in the current job. So wherever you see the opportunity, demonstrate your analytical ability, your decision tree, what you have learned in the data science capability, and impress your boss, impress your senior, and that's how you create your credibility. This how you will keep learning. This how you will keep continue to remember what you have learned. What you need to understand, if you leave it, the learning has one amazing trend. Probably you take more time to learn, but you take less time to forget. Usually in 1 month, probably you can recall 75%, 3 months, only 25%, and after 6 months, you probably will be able to recall some terms only. Most often than not, you will not remember anything. So it is important for you to continue to keep revisiting your learning. and try to exhibit your skills at your current level. Sooner or later, probably you never know, might be the whole analytics team might start reporting to you if at very senior. But for that, you need to, impress in your job, get promoted in your job. The moment you reach to a particular level, nobody, expects you to do day-to-day job, and probably you are the senior most. But if you're just thinking that, I am senior manager and I'll go into another company as AVP analytics, I rarely see people getting benefit out of that. And whatever, advertisement and other things that you are seeing, those are more of bait. I'll just talk about that. And understand this way, just for learning and exhibiting at the job, do you really need to lose your fortune, your saving of the life? I don't think so. So I will say, if you are really, into the job, doing good job, actually like with little motivation, you can do online also, which will probably cost you not even 1% of the money that you are otherwise putting into the other kind of courses. However, I must say that there are people who say that I got motivated because I put money. I think the logic is valid, because you have given huge amount of money, so you feel like I should study. But that compulsion that you are creating by giving money, that you can create without giving money also. It's mindset. So try to think of, what is the best food for you. Now let me talk about some executive MBA myths also, because that's where I see people making some mistake, and I'll talk again from what I've seen in some cases. So let me talk about one of the cases here. Check who has got success, check who has been really beneficiary of those kind of courses. Many a times you'll find a particular profile, for them it is beneficial. It's not good for all. I know a particular case when the person actually was earning approximately 1 million 10 lakh per annum in 2010. It's an example 2010. 1 year of course, so 25 lakhs rupees. In 1 year probably you would have got 10 lakhs of salary. So if you think of, you did 1 year, you spent 25 lakhs, 2.5 million, 1 million what you would have earned. After doing the course, the person was actually unemployed because the campus interview here was usually actually very, very poor. And the person who was getting hired as a lateral here was not even getting an offer. So 2 months unemployed, and then the person got how much? Just 5% jump, which if the person would have continued in the job also 10%, 100%, he would have been sitting here at 12. So if you think of the total loss this guy got, 25 here, 10 here, in lakhs, or 2.5 million, 1 million, 2 lakhs here, because in 2 months 2 lakhs. And if you think of the salary rates did not happen, here would have been sitting at 12, so 1.5 lakh here. So it's a huge loss. So I must say that before going for executive MBA or executive course, you must figure out it is for you, the people who have got success are of your kind of profile or not. If it is not your kind of profile, try to avoid it. Many times what you need to understand, advertisements are like bait. What is a bait? Money has amazing power. I recall one advertisement where it used to say that, when the Sprite came, that Lisa used to say, it was like a fun, it was like a poking fun on certain things, but used to say that, I'm very beautiful because I take bath for a Sprite. And everybody knows Sprite is for drinking, not for taking bath. So people can say anything when you give them enough money. Money has power. And that's why there are a lot of advertisement which will talk about this kind of success, that kind of success. But what I'll suggest, you try to figure out the truth on your own. What is the truth? Who has got benefit? Maybe, one person, maybe out of 200, 1%, then maybe that course may not give you the benefit. What you need to understand, these advertisements are like bait. Here the fish loses its life. Here you lose your fortune. You think there is a dollar here, you think there is a money here, you go there, but this fish is actually your saving of 3.5, 4 years that goes in vain. So you have to be careful, with this kind of advertisement. You have to figure out on your own that it is beneficial or not. Now, last but not the least, you have to save your fortune and you have to help others. What you need to understand, when people have lot of money, they can actually do advertisement. You are searching anything, that advertisement will pop up. But this kind of video, which is more to explain people that okay, what they should do and what they should not do, you might go into the third or fourth page of the YouTube and might not be seen to the people. So if you think that this has helped you, or if you think this can help someone to take the right decision, I will suggest share with that person with personal recommendation that you are recommending for this reason, so that he or she can save his fortune and still can do the learning. Thank you so much for watching.